who had gone through infertility herself, and all 5'2" of her stood up to that window and said, "No, you don't understand. I have a bracelet. They've been waiting 10 years. We're going to go back and see that baby." And you could see the woman's face soften, and they let us go back, and she said, "Okay, you can come back, but you can't take pictures." And Joan said, "No, you don't understand. We've been waiting 10 years. We're going to take pictures." And so she snapped that picture, which I didn't show to anyone for 2 years. It was just too personal for me to show it. That was the moment we picked up Isaac for the first time, May 7, 2008. And then we returned home to England via the drive, which we had some skeptical people at the rest stops wondering why we were traveling with a 2-day-old baby. And I also loved the faces of the women as I walked by, and they said, "Is that your baby?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And there was still one woman who said, "Miracles of medicine." I didn't look like I had just had a baby. And I loved to do that to people. I thought it was fantastic. I was going on a jog one day, and I met a new neighbor. And Isaac was 10 days old, and she said, "Where do you live?" And I said, "Right there with this baby sign." And she said, "Oh, you're an all-star." And I said, "Well, I have to be honest, I didn't birth the baby, but I liked to pretend I did, so that was kind of fun to do. Although it wasn't as fun after I had my own, which I'll get to in a second. So on the next page, we returned home, and my friends had all celebrated. They put a sign in my yard. I'd always wanted a sign in my yard. So I had a sign in my yard, and in our house, and at my husband's office, with Isaac, and Scrubs took to Isaac just fine. We had prepared him to have children in the house. You'll see it on the next slide, though. And that picture in the top left corner is the first time you can see his ears. The first time he heard that newborn cry that we all know, that he was like, "What is this?" I heard babies cry, but not that high screech. And then he laid down by the pack and play, and he seemed to get it from the beginning that this was somebody he had to take care of. So my adoption illustration is on the next page. Let's go back to our sort of waiting game. Here's our friends going back and forth to Australia, if you remember. And there's my boat. So I'm going to take a boat to Australia. And it's going to take a lot longer, and I might only get to go one time. But I get to come home with a baby, and it's the same exact experience at the end. Even though my friends are going back and forth. I'm good on my boat with my adoption with Isaac. Adoption, and I'm not going to get into all this though, is not an easy process. There is very complicated, a lot of steps involved, a lot of things to consider, domestic versus international, adoption versus fostering in country, etc. These are not things when you say to someone, "Just adopt." I really think that if every birth parent had to go through the adoption process, we would not have very many children in the world, because it is a very difficult process and a lot of invasive questions and home visits to adopt, even with someone we knew like Isaac. And when your friends, if you have friends that are adopting, I did want to throw on here a quick slide about how to offer support. Remember that the door is always open, and that once a person decides to talk about adoption, they want to talk to you about it, and the door is open for them. But don't bring it up until they bring it up. There are differences, though. I had a friend, she was very well-intentioned, came up to me and said, "Oh, we're so excited to have the baby," and she was rubbing my belly. And she was trying to indicate we're going to look at this baby the same way, but it was different. I wasn't pregnant, I was adopting. Celebrate with them, you saw the showers I have. They're going to prepare, but they may prepare a bit slower, and that's okay. They may still be set off by some triggers. If they're here at a MOPS meeting, it still may be difficult for them when someone announces a pregnancy, even though they have their adopted child. And there still may be pain involved. Adoption does not erase the pain of the years of infertility. So some misconceptions that I talked about. Birth parents can show up at any time to reclaim their child. They cannot. When I met before the judge at the 5-month mark, he said, "This child is blood." And if anything were to happen to my husband and I, Isaac would be left to whoever we leave him to in our will. Does not go back to the birth parents. So what you see in the news are where fraud is involved on every occasion. Birth parents can show up at any time to reclaim their child. My adopted child will feel more different or alone. 1.5 million adopted children in the U.S., so they're going to be able to find some people that are the same. Adoption is more painful or time-consuming than having a pregnant baby the normal way. This is true. This isn't completely a myth, but pregnancy is not a walk in the park either, as you all know, and I come to find out. It's not as easy either. With adoption, you don't know what you'll get. You know what you get with your biological children. There's no telling whose genes they're going to pull. So adoption is too expensive. It is expensive, but there are a lot of options. A lot of grants and things are available. The organization my husband and I started, and the U.S. government currently has a $13,000 tax reimbursement for adoption. So while Isaac's adoption cost us about $15,000, we got $13,000 of that back. with our taxes right now. And it's one of the things to pay attention to with changes in government. We were really excited when the government switched over with Obama that he continued that on and did not choose to get rid of that. So anytime leadership changes, we worry that that might be taken away. Adoption, where are we at? There aren't enough babies for us to adopt. And actually there are 20,000 babies every year available for adoption in the United States. So there are enough. Babies available in the US are all drug exposed. Most birth mothers are actually living substance-free lives. And most are not teens, actually. Most are in their 20s parenting other children. Adopted children are more likely to be troubled than birth children, and research indicates they are as well adjusted psychologically as their peers. The problem is, of course, if there's a child that has trouble, what do we say? Well, they were adopted. You don't say, well, they weren't adopted. That was their parents' genes, and look how they turned out. We don't say that. And so that's why it's always attributed to adoption. Open adoptions can cause confusion for the child. Strangers may be confused, but the parties involved are not confused. We understand the adoption. And parents can't love adopted children as much as a biological child. Well, I'm here to prove that they can, because 6 weeks after Isaac was born, wouldn't you know it, I'm feeling really sick. Not feeling so good. My boobs are also getting a lot larger. Sorry, Keith. And my husband said there's only 2 things that can cause that, a pituitary tumor or pregnancy. And so we went on a trip to Minnesota for a wedding that I had promised to be at. And on the way back from the wedding, I decided, Keith jumped the gun, but that's all right, Keith, we'll let you jump the gun. On the way back from the wedding, I decided to take a pregnancy test in the Minneapolis airport bathroom. That's a long story. And it was positive. And I got off the airplane and went into, my husband had already had an ultrasound room ready for me, and we were 8 weeks pregnant. So Isaac was 6 weeks old, and we were 8 weeks pregnant. And so on January 31 of 2009, Elijah Luke joined us, and they celebrated their first Valentine's Day together there in the top right corner. And so as of today, they are both 3 years old. Isaac will turn 4 in May, and Elijah just turned 3 in January, and they are best friends and worst enemies and totally twin brothers to every sense of the word. And then there were 3 on the next page. So Scrubs welcomed Elijah the exact same way, and suddenly our dog, who has this look on his face like, I thought this was just going to be you, is now welcoming too. People pregnant after infertility go through a lot of things as well. They may have new fears or felt unwelcome in groups like this because they were dealing with infertility for so long. So it's just important to keep that in mind. So where am I today? Well, I told you that I was in Kentucky, then in England, then Minnesota, then going to Turkey, and now we'll be headed to the Azores. And you'll see all this on the next slide from there. And while we were in Turkey with our 2 boys, 8 months apart, and our big dog, God has a great sense of humor because we found out that we were expecting another baby without infertility treatments after 10 years of marriage. And Abigail Grace joined us on July of this last year. She's 7 months old. I put her in the nursery here this morning. And we ended up having to have her in Germany. I went into labor early, and they shipped me out from Turkey to Germany. I also had appendicitis at 15 weeks pregnant in Turkey, which they had to do with me awake, the surgery awake, because I was pregnant, and it was not that fun, but she arrived, and so today I have 3 little guys that I took over here from Turkey by myself, 7 months, 3, and 3. And so you all understand this, when I got to my gate in Baltimore, so we flew from Turkey to Germany, from Germany to Baltimore, and from Baltimore to South Florida. So when I got to my gate in Baltimore, and they said, we're sorry, we baggage checked your stroller instead of gate checking it. That is a problem. You know, I have it all set up to wheel this perfectly, and you don't have a stroller for me, but it's amazing too how the Lord provides. And yes, I got my kids ice cream at 7 a.m. in the morning, and yes, we did things a little bit differently, but we totally made it. And I had so many wonderful people step up along the way, including a man while we were waiting in line for ice cream that just said, how could I help you right now? What could I do? I obviously look desperate. What could I do right now to make your life better? And another man who loaned me a computer to watch a Disney movie on the plane because the stewardess made my boys sit separate because the infancy had to go in the middle. So that really made a problem for my power supply because I was worried of running out of DVD. I had a DVD and computer supply. So he said, well, I can take care of your power supply issue. I'll loan you my computer for this flight. And so he allowed my boys to watch one of my boys to watch a Disney movie to help. So just little things. And so today there are now 4. And you can see Scrubs is actually in in love with Abigail. That was my attempt at a Christmas picture. Very badly, as you can tell. Life is incredibly crazy and incredibly insane, especially with all three getting sick at the same time. But we are doing wonderfully, and like I said, my ministry is to support other women. You'll see on the next slide some of my resources listed here. I have a handout if it made it, otherwise I'll email it. And WendispeakatMOPS2.MPG is my website. It's speaking with other women and groups about how to stand alongside those we love while they wait. So that's the extent of my presentation, unless there are any other questions. Does anybody have anything? I'm an open book, so there's really nothing you can ask me that I haven't probably been asking for and am prepared to answer. Yes?
I don't know, because I'm stupid. So after having all those treatments, if you were to have gotten pregnant through IVF or whatever, and had the baby, then after that, are you more fertile or less fertile, or?
They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. Nobody can tell me. I mean, none of the infertility treatments worked for me.
Right.
Both my babies were conceived without treatment. They don't know why that happened. I know that God just did a miracle.
Right.
They don't know at this point, and that's why we got pregnant with Abigail, was they couldn't tell me if my problem was fixed, or if the infertility treatments fixed it, or if no stress fixed it.
Right.
Nobody really knows. I know that had we gotten pregnant when we wanted, we wouldn't have Isaac. And so I know God has a perfect plan. I don't know the extent, and so we don't know. Before Abigail, we just decided, well, why should we prevent another pregnancy? We don't think this will happen again, and it did. And so now we're sure that whatever was broken, it was probably fixed. And so, but they actually don't know. Research cannot indicate why this happens, why your body wasn't working and now is working. Was it because of the treatments? We have no idea. And so we don't know when we go back for those embryos, which we plan to go back for, if the embryos were bad or if all 7 of those remaining will work. We don't know what will happen with those. That's a great question. Yeah?
Okay, so this is probably a silly question, but how's Scrubs doing without the children and the mom?
Yeah. No, he's great. I think he really enjoys it. We have some families in Turkey that will take him in. He has children around him continually. The dog, people worry when they bring their kids over, the dog pulling their tail or whatever, and he is just I say I'd rather leave my baby in the room with him than with her brothers right now. I trust him more. So he totally misses us, but you know how dog is. As soon as we came back, I was in Germany 2.5 months to have Abigail. And as soon as I came back, he kind of ran around me and then looked for a treat. Like, okay, let's get back to how things used to be. They don't, it's no time.
Another comment I'd like to make as a mother of 2 daughters who are older, 28 and 25. The 28-year-old especially, who is not married, has dated one boy in her whole life, and who saved herself, and God is not providing as her mother. It breaks my heart to see that I'm not a grandmother, and my friends are now having grandchildren. And I wonder, what has she done? She's a wonderful girl. Yeah. God's going to provide. My hope is in Him. But be sensitive to the parents too, because they're feeling it's especially difficult for them as well. Yeah. And so here you're seeing their child go through something that is incredibly painful, and they can't help. And that's what parents want to do, is to make everything all better.
Yeah, and my mom's here, and I actually didn't even talk to my mom about it sometimes as much because it was just so painful for me. And especially when your mother's watching you go through this and seeing that. And I was one of those people too. I'd done everything the way I was supposed to do it. And so why wasn't this working for me? And to see that. And my hope for you in seeing my story, don't go tell your friends that if they adopt, they will get pregnant. I am the exception, not the rule. But my hope is that you see that miracles can occur. And my husband's older sister is going through infertility right now after 15 years of marriage. And she's actually the couple that we're sponsoring on Because of Isaac. If you go to our website, we've raised $16,000 toward their adoption of what we think will cost about $23,000. And she said to me when I found out I was pregnant after adopting, I sent her an email, and she said, I was worried that it would hurt her. And she said, I'm just glad to hear, I love seeing that God's still in the business of doing miracles and that he hasn't forgotten you. And that was an encouragement to her, and that's my encouragement to your daughter, is that, and to you as well as you watch that pain, that God is still present and he does have a plan. And I'm seeing that now. Now it's all coming into vision of what he had intended for our family from the beginning. And that Isaac belonged there from the beginning. And had Joan not gone through infertility, and had Joan not lost those children, she wouldn't have Brianna and I wouldn't have Isaac. And sort of the cascade of the Lord's hand in his design. So.
Do you have any kind of relationships with Brianna?
Actually, yeah, that's a great question, and I meant to answer that. That's usually the most common question. Yes, we just went to Disney World with Brianna and AD the other day. She's recently broken up with Isaac's birth father, but she's with a great new guy that she really loves. And her mom is very involved in our kids' lives. You know, Brianna's 21 now, but we talk to her frequently. Isaac knows that that's his birth mom. He knows he was in her belly. He doesn't know what that means. He just thinks it's cool that he was adopted like Kung Fu Panda and Moses. But Bree is very involved, and Joan is very involved. And I say people on the outside, it's hard to understand. And you look at it and go, how would that work? And I can't explain it. When you're on the inside, it just works. And I said, you know, if Isaac was getting married tomorrow, and he said, could Joan sit by you? I mean, not Joan. Could Bree sit by you at the wedding? I would be like, absolutely. Because to me, I get to be his mom for 18 years because she went through 10 months of pregnancy instead of giving him up for, instead of terminating the pregnancy. And so for me, to me, it's awesome to have other people that want to hear your kids' stories. You know, I mean, it's just another family that loves him and is very involved. And so it's a great relationship. It works perfectly for our family. And my husband also says, people worry about whether you will love the children the same. And my son Elijah, my biological son, was a very difficult baby, if any of you have had difficult babies here. Isaac was the most relaxed, laid back, chilled. And Elijah came and cried and cried and cried and cried. He wasn't feeding right. And my husband said, you know, people worry about loving their adopted child as much. I'm worried about loving my biological child. He said it took almost 6 months before he felt like Elijah had reached Isaac's level in his heart. Because of that. So it's just no different. And I'm sure you've even had that with 2 biological children, where one of them is just, you're just having trouble falling in love completely. If they would sleep through the night, you could fall a little bit better in love. So, yep.
I just want, I know some people can't see it right now. I think we're going to create a handout, but you can actually email that to us, and that way we can send it to our table.
Absolutely.
I can see the black of your bill. I can't see the green of your to actually give the emails to some people at my table.
Gotcha.
So we can definitely get that.
And I have the handout, if it didn't make it, the handout didn't make it, but I send the handout via email, and so I'll send it to each of you, and it has all those resources on it. And that's sort of my bullet of where to start. Please email me. If you have a friend or something and you need resources, this is my ministry. Email me, say, hey, how can I support my friend? What's a good book I can read? Where's a website I can start at? Support groups. This sort of just, you know, you can give 50 resources, but this will give you a link to any resource you might need. And because of Isaac, it's just me plugging our adoption organization, and hope that you'll just take a look to pop over there and encourage other people to as well, or to find another group to support with adoption. All right, I think I went a little over, so, all right.
I apologize, I was supposed to photocopy the resource information for you guys.
Email will work fine.
And that was the one little piece I think that I missed. So I apologize, but I'll make sure you guys get that information within the next couple days via email. You can either print it off.
Before she goes to labor, you guys.
Yeah. Before Thursday at 7:30. Okay, so we're going to do a few more drawings to close. Unfortunately, we don't have time for discussion questions. What we might be able to do is in the next meeting, maybe just, there's a lot of information, so be reflecting on the words that Wendy shared. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and honest and intimate with us. What an awesome story of God's love, and just really awesome. Okay, so a couple more drawings here. We have Adrian, Bethany, Deborah. Also, we have a new mom, Sharon. I'm going to go ahead and have you come up and accept a prize as well. And Christina V. home is where the heart is. Little door hanger. Whoopsie. One of the tickets fell out, and so I think that's the one I'm supposed to. Oh, here. Rachel Little. Okay, so we are at 11 o'clock now, ladies. So if you would, please clean up as quickly as possible, get your kiddos. And next meeting again, March 3rd in the WCC Squash Shop. Be sure to get emails. Let me just close this prayer here, guys. We're going to pray, we'll get going. Oh, also, if you don't have a church home, please feel free to come and join us at Grace Fellowship, 6 p.m. on Saturdays, 9:30, and 11:15 on Sundays. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time that we've had to share in fellowship and for the story that will be shared with us. So Lord, I just pray that you be with us the rest of the weekend and all the moms and kiddos that are here. That you just have them enjoy the time together this weekend. We love you so much, and we thank you for all your many blessings. In your precious name.
Probably, but that's you. Get the service and all the
I better not have this vacancy at at 11 o'clock is my Sunday school class, and it's right. I mean, I can easily tomorrow. It's literally we walk up the door on the side, we walk and we leave the church to go pick up the kids. I'll wait time right there, and your husband is in a couple of classes, so that way you're at home and meet the kids. If you're interested, that way you can get some guys, and then you can get some other women, and we can all connect with other people too as well. Okay.
Yeah, it's every 0 to 3 months. So it's just like one of the sample pieces that I have. Like,
There's a really
I don't know. So it's
because they're all from PBA. Hang on 1 second, They're all from PBA, and they're all great babysitters. And I know a lot of people that can probably help you out as well for babysitting as well. So give me a call this week or send me a text. If you can't come tomorrow, that way I can let them meet some other people tomorrow. Okay, you got my phone number. Send me a text if you're not going to be here for some reason. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So glad to have you today. Look forward to seeing you again, okay? So glad you got to come today. Was your trip good? You have a good trip? Okay, awesome. Oh, I bet you did. Oh man, no snow, no snow. Claudia, so glad you're here today. Yeah. Hopefully you can come back another day. Yeah. I got your information that you can email us. Okay. Hopefully we notice it. I got your work email, but I don't have your personal email. Okay, perfect. I got your work email, and then when I send that, they're going to get your email, your cell phone number or something, because I don't know about everybody. Okay, that's your home phone? I mean, that's your cell phone number? Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Claudia. Bye-bye. So, anyway, so you were hoping to see snow, and you get to see snow? Oh, man. Just a little bit, not just a little bit to get you by. Oh, man. That's awful. But, oh, well, maybe it's so, huh? But y'all had to get your own. Well, I don't know if I'm going to do the play date on this week, but I'm not sure if we're going to do it or not. But we definitely need to set something up for play date to kids play and stuff. Okay, well, good. Well, I'll send you a text to remind me, and then I'm going to look at my schedule. I don't have my schedule with me right now to see if I can call. Okay? All right, have a great week, okay? You take care, sweetheart. Bye-bye. Is that our sister over there?
all those blonde. Y'all be college that
I'm jealous.
All right, you guys, y'all got some secret sister stuff, right? Y'all got